What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Panthers Nation Network. Of course, I'm joined by Sean T. Stewart, host of a couple of podcasts, right? Just talking all the time.
Oh, yeah, bro, but all day, every day, bro. We love sports, dog.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Well, they don't love us back, right?
Nah, not in the Carolinas, they don't.
Fix your thing. You put it down. We want to hear you. I ain't going to get too intimate with you. There you go.
Right there.
There it is.
All right.
Act like you've been doing this before, all right? I know this is some high-quality stuff, okay? Act like you know you've been doing, all right? All right, guys, we're talking, of course, about the draft. Nothing else to talk about. I don't know how to feel. Because everyone says we did a good job.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember the last time everyone said we had done a good job before.
For a whole class?
For a whole class, yeah, right?
It's crazy. I never look at our draft grades because I always assume that nobody in the league's gonna give us credit for anything that we've done.
Right.
So I think the last draft I can think of where I was like, I like what we did was like 2017. McCaffrey, Kurt Cole, you know what I'm saying? That class, that was like the last class I can remember being like,
yeah,
all right, I like what we did here. Every other class since then has been, I mean, like a pick or two here or there, but a whole class in itself, nah, I can't remember the last time I've like really like enjoyed a class like that.
No, I mean, even our first round picks, especially in the last few years, Icky fan base was divided on. I mean, now that's fair. Fan bases have been divided regardless. The last time that I think our fan base was universally happy about a pick was probably McCaffrey.
Yeah.
I think that was the last time that because even, maybe Brian Burns, I don't think there's anybody that was really mad about Brian Burns.
I don't think anybody was upset, especially because we were picking in like the mid first, so you was kind of,
yeah, he was so we picked out of the last, I think it said 10 years, we've picked in the top 7 times. Yeah. Brian Burns was the only one, was one of them. DJ Moore was not, and then the year we didn't have a first round pick at all. And then got to X.
And well, here's the thing though. The number 8 pick for Carolina throughout our history has been money. It's been money. And based off what I like the things that I've seen from Ted.
So we gotta because we gotta get this in the bud now.
Okay.
For you too. He don't like to be called Tet.
Oh yeah, T-Mac.
It was annoying all draft weekend. I understand it. T-Mac or Nalo.
Yep. Yeah. So I gotta get out of that.
Right, I know. It's gonna be hard.
Yeah, I gotta get out of that. But so T-Mac, here's the thing. I never thought he wasn't gonna be a good player at all. It's just there were just things that I just didn't necessarily love about his game coming out, and things that I preferred in a receiver that was gonna be my number one guy. He does have the capabilities of being a number one receiver. You start talking about guys like AJ Green that had that size and play with that.
Yeah.
Play with that ability to go pluck the ball out of the air. You talk about guys. I mean, there was the NFL historic page. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Yep.
But they had all his comps were AJ Green, Plexico Burress, and Vincent Jackson. If he's Vincent Jackson, we did a great job. We hit.
I think we did. I think the thing that I never was worried about his abilities, right? I thought they were a little oversaturated. I thought everyone's saying, he even himself, his comp for himself was Mike Evans. Bit of a stretch there, in my opinion. Just off of the tape I've seen, look at the people you're playing in, the league you're playing in, in college football. It's not SEC. Yeah. I understand it's Arizona, but there hasn't been a really good Arizona offensive player since Rob Gronkowski, if we're being really honest.
Ooh.
Yeah. And even that was a complete stretch and a complete surprise. I do think that he can be a very good wide receiver. I didn't like the comparisons at the time. Drake London, do we need it? Is that what's going to help us out right now?
And that's what I'm saying. Is Drake London the guy that you're wanting? But here's the thing I'll say about him in that Drake London comparison. I think he's better after the catch than Drake London.
I would say so.
And if he's Mike Evans, the reason why I never give him the Mike Evans comp is because I was like, I don't think you're as physically imposing as Mike Evans. I felt Mike Evans was 6'5",
yes,
and ran a 4.5. Yes. I felt that when I watched him play, and he plays with that type of he plays that type of imposing will. I don't feel like he imposes that type of force on the game on a down in down out basis. If he can play if he's AJ Green, it's money.
See, and that's my thing too, because and that's my I've watched Mike Evans from the sidelines, from the corner of the end zone. I watched him just go to town over our defensive backs. It's a different kind of aura around him, and I really also never have liked player comparisons. I think an unfair metric, and it only sets you up for disappointment because you're not going to be the next Mike Evans. Mike Evans was not the next Randy Moss. They're themselves. So I've always thought that was an unnecessary thing to do. For me, though, I will say I think what he does really well is his catch radius.
Yes.
He's able to bring the ball out from anywhere in his circle. And I think that's really good. The thing that concerns me a little bit about that, though, is that's really what now his catch radius is not as good as T Max, but that was a really big factor for X coming in.
It was.
We said he could get the the 50-50 balls, he could jump up in the air, and whether or not the plays that we were giving him gave him those ability to, or the difference of going from college cornerbacks to NFL cornerbacks, especially these prototype guys where a lot of teams have these taller cornerbacks.
Mm-hmm.
I loved what he talked about, he's most excited to go up against J.C. Horn. Good.
Yeah.
Get used to going up against J.C. Horn.
And that's every week.
That's every week.
Yeah.
That's automatic, and that's my concern. And if it does do well, I think it's great. My thing though is, and I thought a little bit better about it after seeing, like the Bengals, they went for T. Higgins after getting Joe Burrow, and then they went for Jamar Chase the next year, first round pick back to back. So there is a formula for when it can work.
Right.
I don't know how much, Chris Godwin's a tall receiver, and so is Mike Evans. So obviously, Canales had some experience with your two big-bodied receivers. I just don't see how it's not an indictment of Xavier's play his rookie year.
The reason why I was, so here's where I'm at with it. Yes and no. Xavier was always a project coming out.
Yeah,
that was well known, and so there wasn't really. I'm not surprised by some of the struggles that he had. I guess the things that he struggled with did kind of surprise me a bit because that wasn't a problem coming out of college.
It wasn't.
So that's where I'm at with Xavier Legette. Also, remember we had to trade back up into the first to get him.
We did.
He was a late first rounder. Guys, once you get past, when you start reaching up to go get guys, you are taking a guy that you're just banking on his traits to be able to pan out. And so I don't think anything Xavier did was anything outside of what I think the expectations were. Like he showed his flashes, had his struggles, so we know he's still growing. There was an opportunity to get better.
There was.
So I can't knock them for saying like, hey, let's take this opportunity to go get better. And Bryce Young is going into year 3 of his rookie deal.
He needs it.
We do need to figure out, is he the guy?
Yeah.
So let's go get him another guy. And so we can dispel all excuses.
Yeah.
There will be no more excuses for we haven't equipped him with the right weapons, especially considering what he had to work with his first couple years in the league. Like,
they're trash. And the funny thing is though, and I've been thinking that every time I see it on Twitter, they compare the 2023 or the 2020, the 2023 class, TMJ, DJ Chark, like all these guys were like, okay, yeah, this is gonna and we thought we had something set then.
I didn't.
There were people that thought there was something set. You definitely were not on the DJ Chark train. You liked Adam Thielen, but you didn't like for the perspective where he was, and you couldn't ride into battle with TMJ being your number one. We all knew that. The thing that gets me though now is so they're comparing but now we got a squad. I'm like, all right, well, hold on,
right?
Because it's only 2-3 players different than what
only
you just
one
had
guy's
last
proven
year.
in that room,
and that's Adam Thielen.
That's it.
Coker has proven it, but is it a rookie just outlier? And is his sophomore season going to be just as good?
Right.
Then Jimmy Horn's not a factor. You can't add him into the graphic.
Yeah, I'm not factoring him. He's not factored in yet until we start to see something.
Absolutely. And you can't factor in Hunter Renfrow yet. There's no reason to do so.
I think.
We'll get to that.
I got
in a
my
second.
thoughts on it.
We'll get to that in a second. So I think everyone's asking if it's an indictment of X, and to be honest, I really think this draft as a whole is an indictment on his draft last year for Dan Morgan, because like you talked about, the fact that we needed to go open for a reach and get that trait and get a guy with those traits, and it doesn't pan out, directly goes, okay, because we have this high pick this year, we're going to do the exact same thing we did last year, but we don't have to reach for it now. Let's get the best receiver on the board, because it was clear from the post-draft presser. After Mason Graham fell off, it was never Mason Graham or Jalen Walker. It was Mason Graham or T-Mac, and then maybe Jalen Walker. Like the way they were talking about it, he's falling to us. He's falling, they were ready for it.
Yeah.
But you do that because the receiver that you tried to trade up for last year, obviously you were in a hole because of the Bears trade. So we knew that you had that issues there. But then also, if you look even further to it, then you get Jonathan Brooks in the second round off of a torn ACL. It happens again. So now you have to not only sign a running back, but draft another running back.
Yeah.
And we can go down the line. We'll get to, Trevor Etienne in a minute as well. But I think, and then you go, okay, further into, you try to get some defenders, some safeties, some cornerbacks. Some, Charles Smith-Wade pans out. Obviously, Trevor Wallace had to do more than he expected to do. So that's where I'm like, okay, it's more of an indictment, I think, of how Dan did in his first year. I think we're going to look back at that class and go, that was not a great class.
I always looked at that first draft as let's salvage what I have to work with based
Yeah.
on what the previous regime did.
Yeah.
So I won't necessarily call it an indictment upon that. Look, I'll say this: even if Excel had a good year last year, what did you feel? Would you feel confident about a room that only included Excel, Adam Thielen, Jalen Coker, and David Moore? Like just that alone, even if Excel had like, let's say Excel went for 700 yards and 6 touchdowns.
I
Do
mean, to be honest, he had four.
had four and about 490.
Yeah, and I mean his touchdown. I mean he didn't have the big plays, but he had those touchdowns. No, I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be comfortable with it.
So there was still opportunity to get better in that receiver room. Then we go to the running back. Obviously, the running back situation went how it went because Brooks tore his ACL. I'm not upset that but there was still always a need to go sign a running back.
Yeah, there was.
That no matter what, it was always going to be that need for that. Now you ended up having to go double dip and go sign a guy and draft a guy. So so obviously that did play a factor. Um, but you look at but I don't think there's much that is an indictment upon last year's group outside of the receiver position and the running back position though. Truthfully,
I mean, they traded away, what was it, Michael Barrett or whatever his name was. Crumity was there. Trevor Walsingham, we said, had to do more than he could chew.
right.
And then Charles Smith-Wade actually performed pretty well. Maybe just so it showed it was much more of a gamble draft than anything else. And it's maybe not an indictment, but we can't correctly grade Dan Morgan as a GM off of that one. We can, I think, off of this one.
This one will be the one where it's like, all right, let's really see if you put together a good class. I mean, because even to his point, I think the edge room got better.
Mm-hmm.
I think Nick scored and Princely. I think they make that room better immediately.
So if that doesn't pan out the way that it does, and you don't get those two guys back to back, which they screwed over the Titans because they traded up right ahead of the Titans because they knew the Titans were going to get an edge rusher.
Yeah.
And at that point, all that was left was Scourton, the dude from UCLA with a million vowels in his name,
Mm-hmm.
Mike Green, and Princely. That was it.
Yeah.
So you had to go jump up and get somebody else, and then you just prayed that one of those guys.
Look, the draft is it's a lot of luck involved.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot of luck. The board falls how it falls. Like we didn't know. Like they didn't know for sure whether T Mac was going to be the guy that was going to be there at 8.
Yeah.
So that ended up working out, and things just kind of worked themselves out. Later on. I mean, but you even look at, but I think that's the draft for everybody though. Like I look at like what Atlanta had to do. Atlanta forcefully got themselves their two edge guys, and I think for what they did, if that doesn't work, that's way more damning than what we did.
It absolutely is. So that's the thing, and it's really, really interesting, right? It's created, and if the NFL wanted to go about it, they should have played it up more. They really could have. If they'd done their homework, they could have played it up a lot more because the Panthers, they talked about it, and that's what got me itchy, was they talked about, you put out the worst defense ever. You let up the most yards. Surprisingly, they didn't let up the most points, ironically enough. But you let up the most yards, you let up a great amount of points,
Yep.
and it was a big issue year to year. And you also weren't last in pressures. I didn't know that. They weren't last in pressures, but they still weren't great.
Clowney did a good job putting pressure on the quarterback.
That's all he did. But you hear all that, and then to hear them take a wide receiver. And I asked Dan and I asked Dave, I was like, how do you justify, with all of this going for you, and you have another big body receiver in the room, how do you justify making that pick? And I really think the more I thought about it, we as fans obviously are a lot more invested in the guys that have some sort of familiarity in the area.
Mm-hmm.
You think that it has some sort of magical spice that makes it work better, right? That the fact that they lived in the same state or grew up in the same state.
Right.
But we saw with Icky, that's not clearly, it doesn't mean they're going to be a star.
Right.
And, Icky's having his upswing, but it could very easily turn into a downswing. So I think that I like that he went past that to say just because Jalen Walker grew up in Salisbury, just because James Pierce played at Chambers or Vance at the time, doesn't mean we have to break the bank for him. I think you still could have gone defensively, in my opinion, that high up because while it was a very heavy defensive draft, you only have one chance to get like a superstar.
Well, this is the thing, and this is where it boils down to how did everybody value the board. This draft was unique in that every team valued the board differently.
They did.
And after Abdul Carter, did everybody think there was a superstar edge that was left after Abdul Carter, or were there a bunch of just really good guys that have some things, have some traits, but are they really stars, or are these guys difference makers in their immediacy? Now we feel how we may feel about it. I like Jalen Walker, of course, and I won't be shy about saying that. If they didn't feel that was going to be that like a like a real big change in that room,
Yeah.
then don't do it. Then go get the guy that you think is going to be the big change. And then the only receiver in this class that everybody told us was the big change in any room was going to be T Mac.
Yeah.
Then I think by their metric and how they thought about it, they did the right thing.
I think that they and kudos to Dan as well because he was playing smoke screens all year long.
They did a great job.
They said in the offseason we're fine with the wide receiver room, and we knew that had a little bit of lie in it because there's no way you could be fine with the wide receiver room. But they looked us in the eye and said, we're confident in it right now. And then it makes me wonder, okay, was them not sending anybody to Walker's pro day?
That was real.
Was that real? That was real.
That was real.
They didn't need to see any more.
Yeah, that ended up being real. Like they maybe liked him. I think they did like him. I just don't think they just didn't see what everybody else saw. And if you think about it, remember Michael Williams' name had came up at times too, throughout the process. Williams went before Walker.
He did. It was shocking.
So that tells you the league also thought that Michael Williams is the guy everybody should be talking about.
Yeah.
Walker's nice. He maybe can, go to the right situation. He maybe can be something for somebody, but he ain't got all the traits that we think is going to make him an elite guy like Michael Williams has. So it feels like the league itself kind of had a similar idea about everybody else past Abdul Carter in terms on the edges.
I agree, and I think that especially for our running the 3-4, like Jalen Walker, where do you fit him in there, right? You're gonna put him off the edge, you're gonna put him off ball as a linebacker, like what are you gonna do? And I think this is gonna be very telling for Avero. You've got two guys. There's not no DJ Johnson.
Mm-mm.
You got two guys back to back, which made me feel a lot better about the T-Mac pick, getting to trade up, getting Princely, and getting Scourton.
When Nick and Nick is only 20 years old, turns
20
21,
years old.
He turns 21 here in a couple months, I believe.
He'll turn 21 in August, which is insane for an edge rusher who's been in the league who was in college for a minute.
Yeah, he played at Purdue,
and he played at
Texas A&M,
and his track record speaks for itself. Same with Princely. Princely had some games. He has some tape there. And so I'm excited to see, but also Avero doesn't like playing rookies. He's not a big fan of playing rookies. He hasn't necessarily had to, per se.
Well, here's the thing. I believe he has the depth now to
Hopefully.
be at liberty to put these guys in however he sees fit. Because DJ Wannums is off top. DJ Wannums is one of my starters. Now, the Clowney situation, I don't quite know what's going on with that. That feels like it's probably coming to an end. I would like Clowney to be in the room because I want to have a real OG in the room. Because Pat Jones and Wannum are in the same age group where these guys would technically be in their prime in their careers based off their age. I want a real OG in the room that he clearly knows what he is.
Especially when there's Shaq in the room. You need somebody on that defense.
I want an adult in the room.
You have to have somebody. These are all children that you have in your roster, and I'm okay with giving him cutting contract down as much as he can. And clearly, I think he's at a point in his career where he's not playing for a ring. I don't think so.
He just wants to get paid.
He wants to get paid, and he's not going to get paid that much. He's close to home now.
Yeah.
There's no other. He's been the journeyman. There's nowhere else for him to go really. You went to Seattle. You went to Tennessee. You went to Houston. You went to Cleveland.
There's always going to be a good team that says we could use him. Like in some capacity, we can use him.
If it gets to that point, then sure, but wait for trades to open up and see if you can get scraps for him, right?
Yeah, I'm not letting him go for free.
No, absolutely not.
If I don't have to, no.
And that's the thing with Shaq. I mean, it spoke to how much the league sees Shaq. Shaq hasn't gone anybody.
Shaq may have to come back.
I would not be against it, to be completely honest.
He may have to come back just based off we need help, and I mean obviously we talked about it in the group chat and about not addressing the linebacker position during the draft. It just and this is what I'll tell you. The guys that we did take and the positions that we did, go grab, felt like they'd be more impactful than a linebacker you take in that spot.
I disagree. I disagree only because, and this is where I know Dave Canales had a little bit of his hand in the pot for this draft, which is to be expected. When you have these two guys that are this buddy as they are, they're clearly connected. They've been so for a while. So I wasn't surprised when it went right down the middle, right? And Jimmy Horn, in the moment I was like, all right, really? Why? Is Jimmy Horn going to make this roster?
There's a real possibility.
There is, but I'm also questioning it a lot more now with the amount, I don't think Moosin's going to be a lock or, and we'll talk about that in a minute, or Hunter Renfrow was going to be a lock, but
I have some real opinions on those things.
And we'll bring it in as well. I mean, there was definitely some favoritism there, some familial favoritism. But all that being said, the Trevor Etienne one.
Mm-hmm.
Or yeah, no.
Trevor Etienne.
Yeah, I can
I
remember
mean, he's
that.
a running back, but I mean.
No, I know, but his pick in general.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
I understood, like, if we had cut Raheem Blackshear or let him go, it makes a lot more sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
I get Raheem Blackshear's not a good, necessarily great returner. I think he does things well when he's given the opportunity to, and
Right.
I like him in the room.
I do too.
I love him in the room, and I love him. We've just never been a good return team as it is. And also, and I thought about this after we texted in the group chat. In today's day and age, I don't think a return specialist is that important anymore.
It is now because the rules changed.
Oh, that's right. Okay,
So,
that's
so,
right.
Yeah,
that's
so
right.
touchbacks now are coming out to the 35.
That's
so
right.
teams they're enticing everybody to
That's
return
right.
the ball.
I
more.
forgot about that. Thank you, because that was in the mix of all that. And I hope it works out. To me, I know day 3 is not impactful, but you're that high up in the fourth. I get we had 2.
Mm-hmm.
But when you still didn't address, and maybe because you were always going to go after Cam Jackson, which we can talk about in a minute, you had your signings on the defensive line, but let's not act like these are the same level as Robert Hunt or Damian Lewis. These are not your bell cow guys. These are bargain bin guys.
Whoa, I won't.
Not Trevor. Not.
I won't call Warren a bargain bin, and I
Warden.
won't call and Bobby Brown.
Was it where he was playing, or was it? And same with Wharton.
Warden had to do work, man.
Wharton did have to do work.
Well, and he played well in the Super Bowl.
He did.
I think based off of how things fell out in free agency, those guys were the right pickups, and if they fit the system, then
that's
they fit
the other
system.
thing. If they fit the system, I hope and pray they do. And I imagine you grab them with the idea that they will fit the system.
As much money you spend out, they better fit the system.
Just for the amount of linebackers that were in this draft, obviously we weren't. They were flying quickly. The fact that the Eagles got Jihad Campbell, it made me sick to my stomach. How we continue to let. How?
That's what happens.
We keep letting him do this. He can't keep getting away with this.
That's what happens when good teams collect picks throughout the years, and
it wasn't even a collected pick.
No, but I'm saying like their draft history of being able to grab guys, develop, and be consistently good
I see what you're saying.
means that when guys start to fall, guess who's there to grab?
Yeah, because we don't have to do anybody else. So let's just. God Almighty, and the Eagles' defense is going to be ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And there was obviously more linebackers that come into the fray, but they were going quickly. Demetrius Knight went.
When Demetrius Knight went, I was like, hi.
I know. I was really. That was.
And not that guys will quit being impactful after he went. It's just that those were the guys that I'm like in my immediate thinking of what we need in this room. Oh yeah. Bring that guy in.
But then there were still some guys on the board
Mm-hmm.
into the day 3 that I think can have impacts in the league. Your Kobe King, Small London from Georgia. Like, these were guys that I was like, come on. Like, we need a linebacker, in my opinion, more so than I thought we need a 4th running back or a 4th tight end. Look, I hope Mitchell Evans pays off a lot more dividends.
Who are the other tight ends in the room?
It is still Jatavian Sanders. Did I miss something? Because I thought we were all on the consensus that he had a great second half of the year. Obviously, he was dealing with some injuries.
He had a good second half of the year.
And I guess in terms of comparison of how bad his first half of the year was, Tommy Tremble also, did we not all make a campaign to keep him on the roster?
I did not.
I know you didn't, but there was a good amount of people. You're normally against the grain, and I wasn't, for more so of a morale standpoint, but I also thought he still had some impacts. Obviously Bryce and him still have a good connection.
I'm going to be real, man. I think the fact that Tommy Tremble hasn't turned into a consistent pass catcher is the reason why Mitchell Evans got picked up. Because Mitchell Evans, to me, I'm gonna say, I know it's still a Notre Dame tight end, but Mitchell Evans is more of a traditional tight end in the sense that he can inline block.
He is,
and he's got a better route tree to me than Tommy has. Tommy, to me, has more athletic upside, but that athletic upside and not knowing how to play your position does nothing for me in the NFL.
This is true. I still think, regardless of, because like Cam Jackson, there's a very good chance, he reminds me a lot of Deontay Brown, right? Or not Deontay Brown. Was that the defensive tackle? Who was the big freaking Alabama defensive tackle we picked up?
Deontay Brown was a big Alabama offensive lineman, but I don't think we got a defensive tackle.
I thought we had a defensive tackle. I can't remember. There was another defensive tackle that we're like, all right, maybe he'll do something, never pans out, right? Cam Jackson, huge.
Right.
He's the biggest lineman on the team right now, at least defensively.
And based on what they liked, and this is where like some of those visits pay some dividend, because all the guys that you started to see that were on these visits, they were about that size.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
He fits the athletic profile for what we were looking for. But again, I don't think all of these picks are going to hit. Like anytime you get an A+, draft grade. Like, fam, be realistic. That 5th round pick that you
No,
got is
it's
likely not gonna
Yeah.
impact winning for you. Like, but you hope they can be a rotational guy.
The defensive picks, like, they had to be, like, for the offense, you can afford for them not to work out and be starters,
Mm-hmm.
right? But for a team that put out more defensive players on their roster, on their starting lineup, than any other team at all, for
Yeah.
both sides of the ball,
Yeah.
mind you, you need depth. You don't have it, you lost it, and you're not building it up in the aggregate, right? So getting Princely and getting Nick was great. And I think it's going to be really good for the edge rushers when you have, also Patrick Jones, you have whatever you're going to do with Roseboom, however he's going to play out,
Right.
whatever side of the ball, and then DJ Wanham as well. I think it's really going to be helpful there. But when you don't have a safety room at all,
Nope.
and then you bring in Lathan Ransom, who, when we're really looking at it,
It felt like a redundant skill.
it really, really did.
When you think about Trayvon
They look like the same guy.
They play very similar. This only feels everything works out if you go get Julian Blackman.
Right.
And I know Blackman is in the driver's seat because he's fielding as many offers as
100%.
possible. Somebody's got to overpay. Somebody's
100%.
gonna have to break the bank for him.
And it's going to be an overpayment regardless, because no matter what output he has there on the field, unless he's bringing in 7-8 interceptions.
Yeah, he won't. He probably won't be worth that dollar amount you're gonna have to fork out for him. And I know good teams are probably lining up, or decent teams are lining up to try to get their hands on him. We'll get a dummy tax more than likely, because that's just how life goes for us right now.
So that's where I'm like, there was a lot more riding on these defensive picks.
Yeah.
In terms of being at least role players. Because we looked at the guys, like we said, Crumity out from the get-go. He didn't.
I never quite.
I didn't believe
felt
it.
Strong in him.
No, and neither did I. But we didn't know how bad the defense was going to be.
Yeah.
At least, we knew it was going to be bad, historically bad, and how unhealthy it was going to be.
Right.
How many people were going to lose. Now, granted, you still have. No, do they still have A'Shawn Robinson?
Yeah, he's still there.
Okay, still have A'Shawn Robinson. All the Robinsons get me confused. There's so many of them.
And here's the thing: if health permits, this defense should be a lot different.
Should be.
Like it should be. It shouldn't be 32nd. Now, where does it get to? Maybe it can get to like 18.
Yeah, it's not going to get higher than that, and I don't expect it to in a year,
right?
Not
in a year.
And but I look at a lot of these teams, like I looked at the Bengals or the Bills or the Falcons, some of that address those needs, linebacker, edge rusher, linebacker, defensive tackle, like in the 1 and 2, where I was like, every mock draft I had seen, every mock draft that I had done, that's what I was hoping for. We talked about it, edge rusher, linebacker, defensive tackle. Those are your main needs, because I think, to be honest, when you look back at it, for the games that the Panthers were in, scoring was not the issue.
Our defense gave up a lot of yards, but they were a bend but don't break defense. Like, there were a lot of times last year where they held teams to field goals. They were able to find ways to get off the field. Like, they found their ways, hence why you got the 5 wins. Like,
yes.
You don't get to the 5 wins if your defense couldn't figure it out at all.
But then on the flip side, you could have gotten to 8 or 9 wins, but letting up a touchdown drive in 35 seconds.
They were still bad.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like the Bucs game specifically, you ran down the field, you scored in a minute, and
you played it perfectly.
Literally as good as you could. With the offense, especially that you had, you played out of your hand and out of your mind, especially with the Bucs defense. Like, that was and same with the Chiefs and same with the Eagles. You had them within single digits.
Mm-hmm.
Scoring was not an issue there.
Margin there is very slim, and you already have a bad defense.
So that's where my thing was like, you kind of really need to focus all of your efforts on the defense. Now, granted, we could talk about the Falcons. I mentioned it earlier, but we never got through it. The rationale that we took this guy, now we have 2 Cali guys leading your offense, whereas the Falcons instead have 2 Charlotte guys running their defense, but they also overpaid like crazy. So if it doesn't work out.
And not only that, so here's where I'm at with the whole Jalen Walker, James Pierce thing in comparison to our guys. If we're just lining them up and we're just comparing what they do, how much do you think they're significantly better than the guys that we were able to pick up?
To be honest, that was the wild part about the edge rusher position, right?
Yeah.
You had, like, the measurables were all there except for the outliers of, like, a Shamar Stewart, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was the one that stood out above the rest.
Yeah.
But then the production is nothing.
Nothing.
Then you have Donovan, I can't pronounce the homie's name from
Ezaraku.
Production off the charts.
Right.
The measurables maybe a little bit on the lighter side.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else, production, measurables,
it kind of all matches
all
up.
around.
And this is and this is where I'm saying, like, Like, do I think they got better guys than our guys? I'm like, maybe. Yeah, I would say so just because I like Jalen Walker
I do too.
more than I like some of the guys that we got. And James Pierce, I was kind of iffy on. I'm like, I thought that the production and what I was being told maybe just
Yeah.
didn't align. But it may be a situation where like I need to watch more
And there were some
about
things
him.
being said about his play off the field as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, when you have those types of questions, I'm like, you know what? Cool. Maybe let somebody else deal with that
Yeah.
problem. It's a risk. It could be a good risk for Atlanta if it works out. But the guys that we got, like you talk about, like Nick had production at Purdue. Now he was being asked to do something different at A&M, put on some
Had
pounds,
a different room too. Yeah.
had a
Shamar
different
Stewart,
room.
Shamar Turner.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy with the Nick pick. Somebody told me like, bro, go watch some highlights real quick because I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of it
He
initially when he got when we picked it up. I cut on the highlight tape, bro. 40 seconds in, I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, no, I knew it immediately. I had because I've been trying to like get. I'm like, what are these edge rushers? Especially after day one.
Yeah,
After day one, I went home and I said, okay, who's on the board? Like, who is left?
yeah,
Who would I like? He and Donovan were my two. Like, get one of them,
yeah.
please.
Hey,
And
I'm glad you knew.
I and because I and the fact that because that was all he slid under the radar at A&M because of the weights. He went from 265 to 285 in one season, and now he's back down to 265.
And that version of him that's back down to 265 is the version that the Panthers will more than likely be using.
Exactly,
And
absolutely.
that guy is productive.
Yeah.
That guy, which again, he was productive at 285, just in a different way because what you're being asked to do.
You're
at that
plugging up
point.
instead. You're plugging up
Exactly.
and you're not going off the ball trying to get to the
But now
quarterback.
his speed, the power rush, good God.
And same with Princely. But that's the thing is that's what I've never necessarily liked about the 3-4, right? I understand where it does work, but I hate thinking the fact of Derek Brown on the end. It
Yeah.
doesn't work for me.
I'll say this about 3-4 rushers, man. I've always felt like 4-3 rushers were more gifted as pass rushers. Like they
Right.
like these guys, they do all the technical things right, and you have to have the physical gifts because in order to get out of that 4-3, you gotta have some get.
I mean, you're literally a step behind as a 3-4.
Yeah.
You're literally a step behind, which I've never necessarily loved.
And like I feel like 3-4 relies more on just athletic traits to be able to pan out, and I feel like you're allowed to get by with not being the strongest as a pass rusher in a 3-4.
It's a zone defense.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like for a 4-3, if you're a dominant 4-3 rusher, you're a dominant rusher. Like
Because then you don't even have to send your blitz. You don't have to send your linebackers. Just send your 4-3 guys,
Yeah.
right? Your 4 guys up on the line. And that's when the Panthers were good, was what we ran.
that's what we're used to. That's what we're used to as a fan base. We know what what a good 4-3 looks like when you have guys like Julius Peppers, when you have guys like even Charles Johnson, when you have guys like Mario Addison.
Marquise
Like,
Haynes even worked
that's
out
what I'm
on.
saying. Like we've seen those guys be able to just like put your hand in the dirt, go get the quarterback.
Mike Rucker, like
That's what I'm saying. Like we've had real guys. So we're just transitioning as well as a fan base from what we've always known to this new era and this new way of
Yeah.
running the defense.
but that's what for me. I don't care what excuses there are. I don't care how many people get hurt. This is Tavares last year. It's got to be. In my
Well, I
opinion.
mean, even if it works out,
I think if it works out, he was already flirting with head coaching positions so many times. I think if he has a great year,
true.
like I think he'll go right back on that market.
Yeah.
He'll go right back there, and then it's okay. Well, all right, and then it's gonna suck though because then that's gonna already put you in a hampering then of having to adjust to a new system if you bring somebody in who does want to run a 4-3 instead.
This is true. This is true. But my hope is because I've thought about this a little bit. My hope is that you add enough talent to the room that you'll be able to deal with any changes that may happen or
Yeah.
that may come that way. And if you got the guys that fit that system well, that maybe you're in line to go get the next guy that wants to also run that system run at least run a similar style system as well. So I mean, my main thing has always just been like, hey, add the talent to the room. I think you did a great job of putting that talent in the room. So we'll see how it all plays out. Whether Ivera stays or goes, I mean, hell, I mean, do your job first before I can really.
Right.
Because I mean, at this point, you haven't done the job that we've needed in order to see you, in order to think of you as anything other than just another coordinator.
No, not at all. And so then, we talked about it. We can talk to the UDFAs as well, because there are some guys that I think that are some really interesting topics. Obviously, there's one that, we had to get some sort of connection here. And so I was happy about it. is Bam Martin Scott, linebacker out of South Carolina.
Yep.
Watched him all his time frame here and his time frame just in NCAA in general. Love what I've seen from him, and I love what I hope he could be for the Panthers if he makes the roster.
Based off the room, he can play. Based off the current room we have right now, he can play.
Absolutely, without question.
So there you go. I mean, and a guy that'll help you on special teams as well. He'll add some value there.
And he's been very healthy.
Yes.
He's never had to deal with health issues.
No.
I don't know why I said it. He also was able to make impact on a South Carolina roster where he was not the guy.
Yeah, and that South Carolina roster, if people don't know, based off how the draft went, there was a lot of NFL guys on that roster.
There was 5 guys. I was really upset that we weren't one of them, but that's neither here nor there. The board played out where it did. I was even surprised Tonka got drafted, to be completely honest.
I was too.
Nothing against you, Tonka, but
I didn't think that was going to work out the way that did. But
I thought he was going to be Mr. Relevant, if anything. With a name like Tonka Hemingway, that's just ripe for right? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, it's over. But we look at the receiver room. I'm gonna tell you right now, man. Off top, Kobe Hudson, UCF. This is why I think that the room that you have right now, that's currently the guys.
You're gonna get 6.
You're gonna get 6.
You're gonna get.
I'm gonna tell you who I want up out of there.
We've got your 4. I mean, you got the. We're not gonna even discuss the 4.
Right, the 4 is the 4.
T-Mac, Xavier, Adam Thielen, and Coker. That's your 4.
That's it. Those are the only 4 that are guaranteed a spot.
Yeah. David Moore's.
Get him out of there.
He just signed a contract.
Get him out of there.
Just signed a contract.
It ain't worth that much.
Canales' guy. He's not gonna let him go.
Well, I bet you. I bet you this. I bet you if Kobe Hudson or Jacoby George start going in there and making plays consistently, I bet you'll have to reconsider.
Itzik and Dan are gonna have to drag him kicking and screaming out of that locker room because that's his guy. That's why he was brought in here.
He's not a guy.
I know he's not.
He's not a guy. He's not a guy that you start like.
So we'll say in a world he's not there. He's not guaranteed. We'll say that.
Yeah.
All right. So give me your you got 2 more.
So 2 more. Jimmy Horn's in there. Jimmy Horn's there. I think Renfro may make it. Maybe. But I really look at him as just a camp body. At 29, coming off of he obviously he was dealing with I can't remember what the
it was he had
some health issues.
It was like it's like autoimmune disorder. He was dealing with
he lost a lot of weight.
He did.
Put the weight back on, but I think just being removed from the game itself for it's hard. This is a hard league to stay up to date in, and you on your way out, you weren't great.
No, I mean he was definitely on his decline.
Exactly.
He had 5 solid years for where he was.
Right.
The fact that he was in Vegas or Oakland, I guess, would he have been that? Would he have started at Oakland or was it Vegas the whole time? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Now the man is not any slouch to adversity. Walk on.
Yeah.
So
if he were to make this roster, I ain't gonna sit here and say like I'm surprised.
No.
But just based off what put like this, if Renfro makes the roster, David Moore's not making it.
No, you can't. But then also for me, I understand the necessity for Hunter Renfro and the fact of if Adam were to go out again, you have, just lowercase to uppercase.
I got some thoughts on Adam too. You can look, I'm willing to start sending guys.
We said this last year. He did produce to the point where you could get him. You could send him somewhere.
I think
and get something for him.
If somebody makes the call.
If someone makes like a Houston, I could see. If they need another different kind of wide receiver.
They drafted 2. They drafted both of those Iowa State guys.
Never mind, I forgot about that. Did they get both of them?
They got both of them.
They got Noel and Higgins.
Yep.
They got both of them. That's crazy. Okay, well not that. I forgot about that. But there are some teams that could use him. I do think. He was a question mark to come back this season.
Yeah.
He was a question mark to come back. To even come last season, or to come into last season, he was a question mark to come back into this season. It was 3rd year. No one thought that was really going to happen.
Yeah, I'm not itching to just get rid of the guy because I understand what he brings as a veteran presence, and he's been Bryce's favorite target since he's been here, and he balled. You know what I'm saying? But if I gotta start making space for guys,
but if I'm not keeping Adam Thielen, I'm not keeping Hunter Renfro.
I just flipped the whole room. I look, man. I tell you this right now, man. I bet we can't say that. Never mind.
Kobe Hudson, I think, could be your Coker. He could be your Coker this year.
I think Kobe Hudson definitely has a real shot to be a Coker. I was surprised he wasn't drafted.
I was too.
That was one of those where, and now we knew that this receiver class didn't have the strength of last year's.
No, it did.
Most of the value for these guys would be later. So that's why I think that even being a UDFA doesn't mean that he's an outside shot to make the roster.
No, Isaiah Bond was a UDFA.
Isaiah Bond's got a weird case.
He has have a weird case. He kind of got which seems to happen with Texas wide receivers, don't it? Because the same thing happened to Adonai Mitchell. Not necessarily the same thing, but you know what I mean. Like they're
It's not great, man.
no,
It's-
I don't know what it. But then one tech, it's there could only be one. It's like the Sith. There could only be one Texas wide receiver. Because then Matthew Golden.
yeah.
I mean,
But yeah, I just
now what do you mentioned other guy. Help me out. Other wide receiver.
Kobe George.
Yeah.
Not as strong. I'm not against him. I just think he's more so a practice squad guy.
Yeah.
I just think that's a in my immediate thing. I'm like, all right, you try to, you hope he clears waivers.
Yeah.
And you try to retain him on the practice squad. I mean the same situation could happen for Kobe for Kobe Hudson, but I think if you could I would like to keep Renfro on the practice squad.
I think you would do good to the practice squad. I mean, he's a resilient guy. He's going to give you. He's like Rudy. He's going to give you his 100% in practice every day.
Like if that's a guy that you can keep around, I just don't want to have to rely on you.
And you might be able to get him depending upon how. And I'm not trying to bank off of it, but there might be some sort of legality to put him on like a pup list.
Right.
If he still has issues with his autoimmune disease and it does creep up, you could have the ability to put him there until things work out. I don't wish that on him, and I hope that doesn't happen. There's an avenue there for, and I bet you there should become avenue even after the fact. And then obviously the interesting one is Muhsin Muhammad III. Interesting only in the fact that, of course, he's the son of Musa Muhammad.
Yeah. That's just look that was it feels more like fan service.
It was.
He just never quite had the years at A&M.
No.
That I was hoping he would have.
And there were some years.
Yeah. And I was hoping he was gonna make a change. I was hoping he would transfer out, try to look to find another opportunity somewhere else. Never did. No, and none of the receivers from there have been quite anything.
I don't know
anyway.
why they keep going to Texas A&M. To be completely honest,
I would stop.
With Concepcion from NC State. Then
Yeah,
he went. I don't know why. I don't know what you're other than SEC ball. What you're going to achieve that you weren't already putting out in NC State.
A check cleared.
It did, and so that's what I'm saying is that he should have taken seen the ghost of Christmas past and say, hey, that didn't work out for Musa Muhammad.
If you think you're actually an NFL guy, I don't know if chasing the check would be the best way to go about it.
But that's the way it seems to be going.
Yeah.
The amount of you saw that stat of how many declared for the NFL draft, and like how many said, you know what, I'll wait another year.
Yeah, that NIL money is definitely changing how the landscape of the draft, which is why I think we ended up with so many receivers that did not get drafted because maybe these weren't necessarily the best guys that we could have gotten out. Gotten to come out. So yeah, it's definitely tough. But with Moose, with young Moose, man, I hope he shows. I hope he shows improvement. I mean, he'll have a rookie mini camp. Will probably be his best opportunity.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't have many expectations. Again, for all of these guys, the only guy that from the UDFA class that I'm like I feel very confident about him is Kobe Hudson. Like it's based off the wide receiver group. There was a kid, dog. I think it's from Fresno State. Nomura. I don't know how to pronounce his first name.
Wide receiver.
Linebacker.
Oh, I've been seeing stuff on Twitter about this guy.
Yeah.
He has a real good chance.
Yeah, that's what I've been seeing, and I'm like. Maybe that's your. Again, last year you think about Damani Richardson played as a UDFA.
100%.
Jalen Coker played as a UDFA.
They were the list that they had. It was on. Shout out Cat Scratch Reader for organizing all this for us. You know, obviously you had Coker. Damani Richardson was your biggest one. Kenny Dyson did play games. He played. Yeah. That's about as much you can say is that he played. Jack Plummer was still on the roster. Popo. Umave, I don't remember him. I don't remember seeing him anywhere. And then Andrew Rame, I think, was just around. He never really played.
But again, the fact that you got two guys, well, technically three guys that played, but two guys that were real contributors from that UDFA list last year, lets you know that there's a real opportunity for you if you come in and if you perform, especially at the linebacker position, like him, Nomura, Bam Martin Scott.
I need it. I need it.
We actually need those guys to be able to make this roster in some shape, form, or fashion.
And they love the UDFAs. That Dan loves it, and he goes to there and he says, "Let me just clear out as much as I can." And from the mock drafts, UDFA was like you said, it was ridiculous. These guys that were mocked to go early. Xavier Restrepo was one of them.
Yeah.
People thought he was going to go.
That 40 just killed all his momentum.
It very much did. and hopefully he can help out Cam. You know, that familiarity, because he can make that Titans.
Yeah,
He can make that Titans room.
absolutely.
But like, it's gonna be interesting, and I think that I'm glad about Dave talking about playing the starters in the preseason. I think you need to get literally everybody on the field as quick as you can.
Yeah, the camp battles this year will be very interesting. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, I think you'll still be able to be there.
So we haven't even really been. They haven't told us. I assume we're going to be allowed to.
Right.
I would be shocked about a training camp where we're not able to film. That
It's tough for the fans, man. I know we didn't plan on talking about this, but that's tough
no, I think we
for the
have to talk about
fans.
it.
That like this is how we stay connected to the team. And 14 hasn't been very good. This is the easiest way to keep people enticed to at least care about this group, because I know for me, even like personally, like knowing that I have youngins that I take to the training camp, and that's their first opportunity to see these guys. That was my first opportunity growing up
Same.
to meet and see these guys, man, in person, and that up close and personal. It's different from going to a game.
It's so much different.
Going to a game and going to training camp, I have more memories from training camp than I do from games. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you get to see these. Like, I met Chris Gamble his rookie year.
Yeah, right.
Gotta say, yeah, got him to sign something for me. Like,
Like my birthday it falls in August, and before they did Fan Fest back in the day, it was just more camp.
Yeah.
They stayed in Spartanburg. They stayed wherever they were.
hella more camp,
A
hella more camp
lot
days.
more camp. So August 11th always fell on like right in between joint practice, or like right in between. They were camp. So I would go down almost every birthday. That was my thing. And I remember one year I had a sign. It's my birthday. Sign my helmet. Bought a helmet. I still have the helmet. And I'm talking Steve Smith, Mike Rucker, and Steve wasn't gonna, but John Fox had him on a gator and turned the gator around. He saw my sign. They both came and signed it. I mean, I'm talking, Mike Rucker, Mike Minter, like all these guys. That's where you get it. Those, like, the white picket fence is a core memory,
Yeah.
right? Around, and that was the whole thing. You didn't need to take it away from Spartanburg, and
No.
that was the whole point of the Rock Hill thing.
Yeah.
Was that you could do this
Like,
without having it.
Why couldn't we have kept it in Spartanburg until the facilities in Charlotte were ready?
Obviously, the plans for Rock Hill failed. You didn't think that was going to happen. But then if you because you had already been talking about this, those plans go into play well before they get released to the public.
Right.
So keep it in Spartanburg, because the Fan Fest at Clemson was a travesty.
It was abysmal, bro.
It was awful.
And again,
Not to their fault. Not
Not-
to Clemson's fault.
not the Clemson's fault, but I think the Panthers organization. First of all, you haven't been back to Clemson in a long time. That's the first time in damn near 30 years that you have been back.
And you haven't formed any sort of relationship with
You
Clemson.
have no relationship with that area.
Never
of South
drafted a
Carolina.
Clemson player. We haven't
No.
even. The last Clemson player to even make the roster was Ben Boulware, and he didn't even make it.
No. And so, I mean, you got Hunter Renfro now.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. That's true.
Yeah.
But like, that's the first one in,
Like you said, you have no real connection to that team. So,
outside of just the fact that you used to play there way back when.
right, 30 years ago, where like nobody's connected to that version of the Panthers anymore.
No.
We're generations past that in terms of NFL generations.
And the thing that really is upsetting about it is you've known for a while, and I go by the same all the time, and I see where they're like, and I remember about a few weeks ago I said, because they tore out all the practice fields. I guess they're either redoing them, returfing them, resodding them, what have you, and I'm like, they don't have a whole lot of time before.
So is FanFest still in Clemson again?
No,
this year?
the Fan Fest will be at Bank of America Stadium.
Okay.
So, but that's the thing is like the Fan Fest is just, it's cool. It's an extra preseason game, but not even that.
Then you like back together Saturday that they do.
I think that will be combined. I think that's going to be.
Oh, they're gonna put it all.
It's just one thing. And so for me, you either knew, and what have you been doing this whole time,
Right.
or you could have I'm sure Spartanburg, or I'm sure Wofford would not be that put off if you came back.
Right.
Like, that's what I kind of.
Again, it should have been at Wofford until everything was set, everything was done. Like, that's my whole thing. And like I said, I understand why they took it away from Spartanburg, because putting it in the city in which you actually play is normal for most teams. Like, and making it easier for the players and all that. And I hope that it helps these guys, be more comfortable. Hey, rest better, practice better, all of those things. I truly do. But there's a part of this, man. It's still about the fans at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, from one perspective, I think it honestly helped the rookies a little bit better because it was kind of still like college.
Yeah.
It was a seamless transition, and the crowds were definitely better at Spartanburg.
That's all I'm saying.
Which says a lot more about the fan retention here in the city. But what have you, that will be, that's going to be very interesting how they allow for us, and it's going to put a lot more on the media. But you have to still remember, even though we are there, we can only film a certain amount of the time. We cannot film any team drills.
Right.
We cannot film any special teams. So it's going to be the stuff that you're going to see from us, and that's what I think is going to be really interesting. The Discord, with Bryce when he first got there, with X. Oh, he doesn't look good. He doesn't look good. He does look good. Look at this errant throw. That's going to be
It's gonna be
non-existent.
non-existent.
It's
Yeah.
going to be non-existent because you don't have fans filming it.
And there's here's the thing, man. There's a whole sector of the Panthers community that make content based off of that, and I think these guys do a great job of relaying to us like what's going on at camp on an everyday basis,
100%.
and typically the things they had been seeing were right when we got to
Yeah.
the season. So I mean, there's a bunch of guys out there that
Because they didn't have the legal recourse like we do. Like, they will get turned away. I mean, they can't stop every person from recording with their
they
phone. They can stop us, and they can see that we're putting it out there.
just like there's like a bunch of the one-on-one sets where like nobody, because like prior to like fans being able to go and get that content prior to content creation being this big, you never saw one-on-one drills.
No.
You get to see every single one-on-one rep just because like there are fans that being able to
Yeah.
be able to go there and record, and again helps you stay in the know about your team. um it's something, man. It's something. I think the fan base is gonna suffer for this one a bit. I mean, for it being 2 years, this year and next year.
Yeah.
Like I like do you like just this is just shooting the shit. Like, do you think they'll see the reaction based off this year and maybe try to make a pivot next year?
I think they have to. And I knew this was from the minute they, it's different. Like the Titans, they're building their stadium right next to their old one, so you don't have really issues there. Renovation, and for all, like, if you really look at it, outside of, I can't tell you the last stadium that just got a renovation, right? Almost all of them have just been rebuilt.
Rebuilt, yeah.
Torn down. You go to Atlanta, New Orleans, Minneapolis, L.A. They don't get refurbished or renovated. They just get torn down. So I was very concerned from the get-go of how this was all going to work, because especially for the Panthers, it's not like you have like regular teams where you have an off season. The minute in between when you're going, the FC's going, and the minute you stop, the FC goes full, and the minute the FC stops, you're already started. So I don't know what they're going to be able to do. There are a lot of construction. These next 5 years of Panther football at home are going to feel real different. And part of me gets concerned about, that's why they're trying to rush the practice facility first, because they want it to not affect, like we talked about, your facilities as a team.
Right.
Because the players don't really get affected by the stadium renovations.
Right, yeah.
But the practice facilities has a direct correlation with how they're able to perform.
So that's definitely the most important thing.
Well, I think that they're going to have to make some sort of pivot, because you can't not have the fans in there that long, right? Like either
Right.
that, or what you're going to have to start doing, and it's going to suck because you don't want to, some way to live stream. But you can't really do that because then that allows for anybody to watch, right? So I just don't know. Either you give the media more access to allow, but then we don't. There's no way to go without worrying about somebody else seeing it. So to be honest, if you don't let people in person, like, I would say build some sort of like observation deck. To be honest,
Right.
but
Something.
then it's still not going to be that many.
Unfortunately, it doesn't feel like there's a real way to salvage this other than just going back to Watford.
Yeah.
There doesn't really feel like a way we can get it salvaged within these next 2 years. So I mean, it is what it is. I hate that it feels like for the fans that maybe that maybe aren't as invested, like them losing the opportunity to see the team for free and get a chance to be up close and maybe form some type of connection to them. That being gone for 2 years for a team that hasn't been very good in a while.
It needs all the fans.
You need all the fanfare you can grab. This is gonna be something. I'll say this. This is it's pressure on them to be good.
It absolutely is.
I think there's real pressure for this team to be able to figure out a way to be competitive and be competitive as soon as possible. Which I think with some of the moves they made, I feel strong about what they did. So I'm hopeful that this team is headed towards the right direction.
Me too. But of course, until then, keep pounding.